Hey guys, in this video we will be adding new users to the online users list, okay? So let's open the server first. Whoops. Node server.js. Now when the user opens this, it says here a user has connected, okay? When you enter a name like test and you click login, it doesn't actually add anything here, okay? So what we want to do is we want to add the name test in the online users list here. So instead of the MMZ, we want to add test here, okay? So here, when the user actually logs in, okay, when the user logs in, we can add, we can define a variable that is called username and assign it to be the value of the input, of the username input, okay? The value of the username input, which is this value. If you say ASD, this variable here is assigned to ASD, okay? So we want to emit or to send this username over the Node.js server, which is here, and we want to handle it via the socket.io, okay? So in here, after showing that, and it has completely logged in, the user has completely logged in, we want to emit something, socket, which is the variable here we used to connect to the page, okay? Socket.emit, we're emitting something to the server, okay? Let's say has connected. We're emitting the has connected event, okay, which is a custom event we have just created now, to the server here. And here we will be handling the value that it has, okay? We will be handling the event that we created. And let's send the username data, okay, to the server. Whoops. Username, okay. We have emitted has connected event to the server, and here we will be handling that event. So in connection, socket.on has connected, which means the user has already completely connected and is on the chat interface, okay? So that's what it means. Let's say a function here. Let's set a function here. And in here, the parameter has to be username. Why? Because we have sent the username here, and we're actually accepting it as the username here. You can type whatever you want here. Let's say SD, and you can still access the username value. But I'll just make it username for simplicity. Okay. So function username, okay? Now, let's actually remove this because we don't want it anymore. We wanted it first because we wanted to test if it works or not, but now it's not necessary. Okay? Now, that when the user has completely connected to the chat interface, okay, we want to create a list in this server. Okay, we want to create a list in here and append the user or the socket name here to the list, and then send the list to the client in order to show the online users on here. Okay, so let's explain everything briefly. Now, let's create a list called users and leave it empty. So when you run the server, it creates a list, okay, a list, and its name users. Now we want to append the username to the users here. So let's say users.push username, okay. That's it. It's easy. Now what we want here is we want to send the list to the client again. So we can loop through it and show every user in it, or every element in the user's list, and list them here. So let's go ahead and say IO, let's say IO.emit. And the reason why we use IO.emit because we're emitting to every socket that is connected to our server, and not the socket, not the only socket that has connected to the server. We're sending to all of the sockets, not only the new socket that has connected. Okay, so IO.emit, which we are sending to all of the sockets connected to the server. Now let's say has connected as well, as it does not matter, has connected with the value, let's say let's actually give it a table here, or a list. Okay, so the first element of this list, or of this table, is going to be the username. Or do we need to send the username here? Let's see. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. We don't need that. So we're gonna just send the users over the network. Okay. So, and we will be handling this event, okay, on the client page. Okay. So let's just check if everything is correct. Users push, username, and IO.emit has connected users. Alright. So, alright here. Alright. Now let's say socket.on, which we are handling the event that came from the server to all of the sockets, okay, that is called has connected. And has connected has a function that has a table in it, users. Now we will be calling this few commands, or this few lines over in order to list the users, or in order to get the users from the users list to the online users list here. We will be pasting them here. Okay, so var for var I equals 0, I is less than users dot length. Alright, and I plus plus, open that. Let's see here. What we want is, we want to append the username to the list here. So let's go ahead and say, what is it called? Is it called no, it's called users. Okay, so we will be appending the usernames here to the user here, to the users online list. Okay, let's go ahead and say users dot append, and let's add an li here. Okay, and let's make the name bold. Okay, and here between the li and the bold, let's add the users I. Okay, so we're listing every element of the users list. Okay, but now we might, oh whoops, we didn't open the server. Now we might see, let's first delete this. Yep, like that. Now we might see a problem here. Okay, let's go ahead and say test login. You can see that it says test, but we have removed this. Why is it still showing here? We have removed that. Why does it show still? Okay, test. Okay, now we have a problem. We have a problem here. It's over, like it's putting the same name over and over. And here we want the user, when the user disconnects, we want to remove the user's name out from the list. Okay, we want to remove the user's name from the list users. Okay, and then we will loop this again. So let's go ahead on socket.onDisconnect. Alright. We will say users.splice, which removes one element or whatever you want. Elements, or how many you want from the list that you're specifying here. So let's say users.splice users.index of, now we want the username. Let's leave this empty because I'm going to explain it later, okay? And we want to remove one from the list, one element from the list, okay? So here we want the username, but how are we going to get it, okay? Well, we already have this, which is the username of the socket that has connected. But we can't use this in here. We can't put username here because this is actually a local variable and not a global variable. So let's create a global variable that says name, okay? And it has a value of empty, okay? So when the socket connects, it actually defines a variable called name for its own. So when another socket connects, it defines another variable called name for its own. So the socket 1 has a variable called name for its own, and the socket 2 has a variable called name for its own. So they are variables separated from each other, okay? And they're not the same, okay? They're not the same. And in here we will say name equals, whoops, let's add that at the top of here. Name equals user name, okay? Okay. So now we have the global variable name. We can use it here, and then we will be removing that name from the users. Now we want to send the users list back to the client so that it can loop through it and list the remaining users in the server, okay, or in the chat. So let's go ahead and say io.emit and let's say has disconnected, all right, and let's send the users list, okay? So in here let's go ahead and say socket.on has disconnected. Let's add another function here and say users, which is the list, and let's copy this and paste it here. But well, you're actually doing the same thing twice. Well, why don't we open a function here, okay, that says update users, okay, and inside it we have this here, all right? And in here let's say list, and instead of users let's say list, and let's go ahead and say list here as well. And instead of calling that, let's say update users, and then we will add the users list that we want, which is users, alright? So let's copy this and paste it instead of this mess here. Okay. Alright. Okay. Now let's refresh the page, or let's actually close this and let's clear, and let's reopen the server again. Let's open here. Okay. Let's go ahead and say test login. There it is, test. Now when you disconnect and re-log in or log in again and say test, click login, you can see that it's still 1. Let's log in from another window to the server. Let's say testing 2. You can see that it says testing 2, and it has the test user, which is from here. But it has counted all of them once again here. So basically this didn't see what this saw, because this connected before this, right? So when this client here first connected, it listed test, and when the user this new user has connected, it listed the users again, and the users contain the test again. So it's actually pretty simple and pretty easy. We will just go ahead here and say users.html and leave it empty like that. So what we're doing here is we're saying remove everything, okay? Remove everything between the users UL here, or the users list. Remove everything whenever a user connects, and then list the users again in it. Alright? So we will be doing the same thing on the disconnect, and we're saying, let's re-explain it again. We're saying remove everything in the users here, okay, whenever a user disconnects, and relist the users that are remaining, okay? So let's see how it goes. Let's close that, close the server. We don't have to close the server right now because we haven't applied any changes on the server.js, but I'm just doing it for the sake of risks, you know? I mean, for the sake of, I don't know, to be honest. I just like to do it. Let's log in and say test, okay. Let's log in from another one. Let's say, hey. You can see that it lists hey and test. But here's the big deal. If we open that, it says test and hey. Okay? Alright. So now we want to show a message here that says, hey, the user test has connected. Okay? So that's pretty easy. You will just add hold up. Okay. So we will just say, where's the messages here? Is it the messages? Yeah, the messages. Messages dot append an li, okay, and it has to be bold. So here goes the username, here goes the username, and after the boldness, let's actually add an italic effect here, and after the username we want to say has connected. So here we want to pass the username, okay, but where can we get the username? Okay, so we can't use the username here. Why? Because when we type the username here and someone else disconnects, it's actually gonna say your username has disconnected, and that is so wrong. We're gonna remove that, and let's say here we're gonna emit, we're gonna add to this, we're gonna actually turn this into a list. Alright, we're gonna turn this into a list, or into a table actually, or a dictionary, whatever you want to call it, and let's say username equals to the username here, okay, username, and users list is going to equal to the users. Alright, so let's do the same here. Username is equal to the username, right? Wrong, because the username is only used in here and not here. So here we can use the name variable because it's global. And let's say here users list and users. Okay. Now in here we will be handling this update users. Let's say instead of users here, let's change it to be data. So we can say data dot users list. See, so data is actually has the value of this all, okay, which is a dictionary. So in here we're saying the data users list. So data, okay, users list, which is this, which is users. Okay, let's do the same thing here. Data dot users list. Okay, now we want to add something here, which is data dot username. Give us the username of the data that we got here. Okay, so let's add the same thing here, but instead let's say has disconnected. So let's reopen that, and no, let's actually reopen the server because we have applied changes on server.js. Let's go again here. Let's say test. You can see, let's wait, hold up, let's remove all of these examples here because they're unnecessary right now. Okay, go ahead here, and let's say the MMZ login, it lists the users here and it says the MMZ has connected. Okay, let's add another one here. Okay, and let's say test login. You can see that it says test has connected, and it does not say the MMZ has connected in here, because this user here or this socket here connected after, and that is actually logical. So here lists the online users, and here says the MMZ has connected and test has connected, and lists. So if you close this browser or disconnect, you can see that the MMZ has disconnected. Okay, so we still don't have the ability to write any messages here, but we have added the online users functionality, and we displayed the new user that has connected in the message area here. And let's check just to make sure that we have completed this. Alright, everything is good. Everything is perfect here. Alright. So we have added the functionality to the online users here, and we have we have given the ability to display the newcomer, the new user that came to the chat application, and we have displayed his name here. So that's it for today's lesson, and in the next lesson we will be adding the ability to write messages here. Thanks for watching.